Hello, a very warm welcome to Women of the Future. Today we will be looking at a woman's changing sense of self, and the reason the subject is of interest to us is because we are aware that there are many of you watching us today, women watching us today, who feel that they do not recognize themselves or their lives anymore. So to address this issue and to give us some insight into why this is the case, we have invited Sister Denis with us in the studio, who will be sharing her understanding of the subject with us. Sister Denis, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
A woman's changing sense of self. I think, Sister Denis, that very few individuals understand that they go through some sort of metamorphosis throughout their adult life.
Well, because, at the very core of yourself, you're the same person,
Yeah.
And so you may grow, you may mature, and there are differences externally, of course, but still your fundamental core is I'm the same me. If you think about it, you're still the same person you were at age 6 or 7, but life impacts us. And I think we have different needs, different aspirations, different feelings as we move through life. And life means something different to us at different stages. So yes, there is that change. But I think we're also talking in this program about a very different thing, which is like an epochal change.
What does that mean?
Well, the status of women, the condition of women is changing. On the one hand, there's energies, there's people trying to bring equality, parity, and so on among women and men. But on the other hand, women are starting to think of themselves in different ways, in a very broad way. Women are thinking, I can, rather than I can't. Women are opening up parts of themselves that they hadn't previously. And I think that there's been a lot of work over the last few decades which is asking women to live more full lives, to understand themselves in a more broad spectrum, and to give themselves opportunities and chances to develop that they had denied themselves previously.
Okay. Now, Sister Denis, I like the way you phrase that a woman experiences herself from the inside out, that she's essentially the same person. Why is it, though, so difficult to be able to see yourself in an objective manner? Where's the block there?
Well, women are very subjective people anyway.
Yeah.
And being subjective, being sensitive, being creatures of feeling, there's a lot of change that takes place, definitely. And, the idea of seeing yourself objectively implies in something static. And I think a woman is constantly moving, constantly shifting. And so discovering oneself is a continual process. There's evolution going on constantly. And who you were and who you are, who you will be, that's moving also. I think women don't really necessarily like being fixed, objective things, because I think there's a natural reaction to the objectification of women, which is the big problem in the patriarchal world. So a woman will assert, no, I'm subjective, I'm not an object, I'm a being, I'm mysterious. I want to stay mysterious. In a way, it's a defense, isn't it? You objectify me, but I'll still be mysterious, so that's not going to work.
Okay, so for many a viewer, when you wake up one day in your 30s, the sense of not recognizing who you are and not even recognizing your own life is a pretty scary set of circumstances to find yourself in.
Scary, maybe stimulating also. Who I was up to yesterday doesn't exist anymore. Now who am I? It's exciting. It gives you possibilities. It speaks to your creativity because you're discovering yourself, you're creating yourself. It's okay, now I'm 30, now I'm a grown woman, now I'm, how am I going to be this, So scary, but also stimulating.
Okay, so what does one stand to do in a situation like that where you have made choices in the past and now you didn't actually consider what the consequences were, and now suddenly in your 30s you're faced with consequences?
Well, you have to take the rough with the smooth.
Yes.
And go with it and move on, I think it's all about collecting your strength, isn't it? And keep always looking at what are my options. Even though as you continue in life, your options are getting less in many respects, but sometimes when you rethink yourself and you redefine your idea of what you are, you can open up more options. You may have a career change. A relationship may be finished and you were starting again from zero. I know in my life I've had to start again from zero many times, and one of the things I've realized is that you actually never start again from zero. You always start maybe differently, but you're always standing on the shoulders of what you had achieved, accomplished, discovered and learned up until that time. So every major change in the life of a woman isn't necessarily that everything up until now just was no good and now we start. No. Everything up until now did what it was for, and now something new is emerging. And whatever had happened to me before, that prepared me for this. And so now let me do this. One of the things we learn in spiritual practice is you're an actor and you're the star of your own show. And so
that is actually quite lovely. You're an actor and you're the star of your own show. Yeah, okay, go on.
So what kind of show do you want to be the star of? You could create it. You see, you have a lot more possibility than maybe you permit yourself to. I think that's part of the changing sense of self that women have, that, I can impact my life much more. I'm not just limited as I thought I was.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because this brings me to my next question. Why is it so difficult for men, but especially women, to come to the understanding that I determine my own experiences? Why do we assume that we are but a yacht on an open ocean and life will take us where it will? We steer to some extent, but we tend to give ourselves over to what life makes us. Why is self-determination so difficult for someone to grasp?
I think a little bit it depends on the culture. There's some cultures where self-determination is the only thing there is. And other cultures, it's all destiny, And we have to realize that there are some forces operating on us which are outside our control. Now in spirituality we again talk about karma, karmic accounts, and there's that force. And then you have your own will, your own free will, you have your destiny, you have a lot of components which are kind of invisible, but in spiritual practice you are able to feel them more overtly because you develop your intuition, and then you are able to work with the forces in such a way that they work for you rather than against you, you know?
Sister Denise, it does take a certain amount of courage to be able to grasp the steering wheel of your life, doesn't it?
Well, I think we need to say being a woman and being courageous has to be the same thing. Being proactive, taking up, doing what is possible, and then whatever is not, then you have to say, okay, that's out of my range, there's nothing I can do, let go. And when you can, take the reins and never set aside your courage.
Yeah, I find it odd that women find it easier to be strong or tough for others, but they do not find it easy to be strong for themselves.
I think that's part of the message that we receive, which says that you're not important, you exist for others. It exploits a woman's natural tendency to care for others, to defend others, to protect others. And so that skewing of the balance is because of the socialization and the what I sometimes refer to as the toxic conventional morality, because it says to a woman it's bad to do that. It's not bad, it's just one more option. Who says it's bad?
What is your definition of courage? And the reason I'm asking this is because you define everything differently from what the viewer has heard it before, and myself.
Well, you know, I think you're in the face of fear. You have fear of something or lots of things, whatever. And usually we think that fear is a weakness, but to me fear is just a given. Life can have lots of scary things in it, no doubt. Now when you're faced with fear, your own fear, fear of something, whatever it is, you have two options. You can either take a step of courage and go with it, or you take a step of cowardice, which means that you lose your self-respect. So, you know, taking a step of courage, you have to get some experience that when you do take a step of courage, you get a divine assistance. And once you've experienced that one or two times, then you come to know that that's a reality, and that you just move forward with courage, and that's that. And you get through.
Okay, so at various points in a woman's life, she finds that she is definitely not the same person that she was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Now, how does one know which aspects of you keep and which aspects of you discard? The reason I'm asking this, Sister Denise, is because as we mature, we have to discard certain personality traits which worked for us when our 20s, but may not necessarily work for us when we're 44 years old. So how do you know how to and what to hold on to and what to say goodbye to? And how do you know who to hold on to and who to say goodbye to? What is your criteria?
I don't know that I would necessarily have some fixed criteria. I would really leave it more to intuition, to common sense, to inner clarity. Every so often you have to just stop your life and just put everything in line and say, okay, now what's next?
Okay, I'm smiling because you did just enunciate a number of criteria, but
Oh.
go on. Go on.
Well, this is I don't know, maybe I would say criteria, if this is this, then that sort of thing. But no, we have to be able to say, just stop everything and okay, have a good look, you know. And I've had very interesting times in my life where I've been on a roll, doing something, performing some function, having some role, whatever, and all of a sudden, boom, you know, it is just finished. And okay, now what? And it's really good. It's a very shocking, but also very good. So you have to deal with the shock of having been brutally stopped in your tracks. But then you consolidate yourself and see what's there on the horizon, and okay, I think I'll do this, you know. And in a way you are recreating yourself every so often. So when everything falls apart and you have this moment of having to stop, deal with the shock waves for a bit, and when they die down you say, okay, now I could do anything really. What would I like? And really feel what would I really like to do now? And sometimes offers will come, and an offer comes, you say, you know, yeah, I really would like to do that, let's go for it. And just reinvent yourself.
Do you include God in your reinvention?
I think God is my, you know, in invention it's really nice to have somebody to bounce your ideas off. And I remember in the, I think it's the 1920s, there was a huge amount of creative people and movements going on, and they would meet together and they would share their innovations, and out of that would come something else. So definitely God is my thinking partner. God is there to give me a little, you know, nudge. Yes, go for it. A little bit of support. Something like this, you know, and you always get a feeling that God is smiling when you're going in the right direction and frowning when you're going off in the wrong direction. So you have to be sensitive to that.
Mm-hmm. Sister Denis, for many women, what brings about a necessary sense of change is a trauma that occurs in her adult life. And she finds that after experiencing this negative experience, she has to do something different because she has become something different. What would be your words to her?
Yeah, there are traumas that happen, can be a car accident or a relationship falling apart, or, you know, life-threatening illness, or you got fired, or you got divorced, or something like this. And you know, you have to be able to say yourself, okay, it's over. It's over when it's over, and you have to grieve it. I think that's an important thing. And as that process quietens down, especially if you give yourself a good amount of silence time. Silence time is really good because it's an accumulation of energy which all of a sudden, like a spring flower, wants to burst out as, okay, here's this flower. And I think that you go with the next flower.
Sister Denis, a person who finds herself in the position where she would like to make a huge change in her life will be met with resistance from the external, because although she has felt that she's changed, a lot of people around her will feel very comfortable with the person that she was and has no idea about the person that she's about to become. How does one manage the impact of one's own transformation without adversely impacting on the people around you? And I'm referring to children, spouse, colleagues, friends, extended family. This could be a huge shock for them.
I'll give you an interesting example. A woman who's an alcoholic has a husband, family, catastrophic life, of course. She goes into recovery and she starts becoming correct. That disturbs the family much more than her alcoholic behavior. And she will be met with, oh, well, you were much nicer when you were drinking or using or whatever it was, you know. So that's quite amazing. In the same way, if a woman who everything has been working very nicely for, but somehow it's either too boring or whatever, and she finds herself something different, it's going to impact the other people enormously, and they are going to be confused and have all sorts of reactions, and they're going to want the old mum, the old wife, the old sister, the old daughter, whatever it is, because they're used to what it was. So anytime you change, anyway, you're a catalyst for everything else changing around you. So you have to come to terms with that. You change means everything will change. And people don't like having to change because somebody else is making them change. So they really do try and stop. You know, in some corporate work, they talk about a bell curve. Mm-hmm. Where you have the innovators over on this side and the people who drag it back on the other side, and the big amount in the middle, they will go with whoever seems to be moving better. And I think that a woman who experiences this and follows it and enters into a new sense of self, she's there in among the innovators, and she's an agent for change, and she will disrupt and disturb everyone. So she has to be very firm in herself, which can be a very lonely place, that no, the way we were doing everything is boring. It doesn't make any sense. It's going nowhere. We're not going to do that anymore. And everybody says, no, it's very nice, it's very comfortable, apple pie, you know, custard, whatever. No, we're going this way. And so there's a lot of energy involved in that. And I think the woman who recognizes herself to be an agent for change or catalyst, yeah, she has to really be connected with the divine energy, because she's going to need all the energy she can get to move all these lots and lots of people and lots of things that are so set in their ways to come off and go in this new direction, because she cannot just change by herself. It causes change. And if she just thinks she can just change by herself and everything else will remain the same, she's under an illusion. That's why she needs the energy.
Sister Denis, we have to say goodbye to our viewers right now, and this has been an extremely interesting half an hour, so I thank you for that. So there you have it, a woman's changing sense of times, changing times. We have experienced that at least once or twice in our lives, where we find that after 5 or 10 or perhaps 15 years, you're not the person that you were before. This applies to women who have children and even those who don't. So if you find yourself in the midst of an experience that feels as if the grounds from underneath your feet are shifting, fear not. You're not alone in this process, and Sister Denis has shared some valuable tools to deal with finding yourself in such a situation. I do hope that you are able to use whatever was shared here to make yourself stronger. I thank you for joining us this half hour, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Goodbye.